Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's TBT Talks with myself, Jack Sear. In the absence of Harry and Steve, I've been asked to host this week's show, sort of to review the manic events of the Merseyside derby. Last night's disappointing, to say the least, loss at Basel, and also other bits of news, including Mamadou Sakho's refusal to watch the game at the weekend, and also news on a potential new contract for Daniel Sturridge. Joining me this week are Craig Austin, who you'll know on Twitter as at AussieLFC24, Harry Seffi, who's at Harry_Seffi, and Joe Watson at Joe Watson31, and Mark Simpson, who's at Mr. Mark Simpson. So yeah, like I say, it's been a bit of a busy week for Liverpool, really. Obviously, with the Champions League and the League Cup at the moment, it's three games a week, so lots to review and go over. So I think we'll start with the derby, which was a disappointing result in the end, wasn't it? And Craig, I'll come to you first. I mean, Roger said after the game that we were a bit more like our usual self in terms of our intensity and some of our link-up play. What were your thoughts on the game, and how far would you agree with that statement?
It's a tough one to try and dissect, mate, because a lot of Liverpool fans' negatives towards the team at the minute is our inability to keep a clean sheet, and have we got the ability to get a 1-0 win and dig in and scruff it out. And we were 1.5 minutes away from the perfect 1-0 performance. We've looked a lot better in attack. We were a lot more solid at the back, and the flow of football, although not totally back, we could see signs of it on its way back. And we were just hit by an absolute dream from Jagielka in stoppage time, which was completely unavoidable. There was nothing we could do. We defended it well. The header from Lovren was a good header, and it's an absolute dream. So it's, although disappointing, it weren't as negative as a lot of people have made it out from my perspective.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a bit more like our old sort of self from last season and that. I mean, there's many sort of people have been trying to work out for a while now sort of what it is. I mean, since Spurs, we seem to have totally lost it a bit, but people have their own theories. But we'll go through the derby, sort of the events bit by bit. And Harry, the first sort of thing of note, the challenges as usual just like any derby, were flying in early, and Gareth Barry, a lot of people wanted him off. After I think it was inside the first minute, that was that awful challenge on Lallana, sent him flying. And then there was the handball appeal, which Rodgers was saying was more like a save. And obviously when he trips over Balotelli as well, when he was caught in possession by him. So, do you think Gareth Barry should have been sent off? Because if he had been, it would make a hell of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really up for debate, is it? Really, there's a number of fouls there that any other game you give yellow cards for. I mean, Martin Atkinson is guilty of refereeing the occasion, which sometimes you want the refs to do, but actually, I think more often than not, you just want them to call the decisions as they see them. I mean, we could have got off perhaps a bit lucky earlier on with the was it Moreno on Lukaku? Could have been a penalty. You see those given, you see them not given. But Barry was I think Barry's 20 minutes in the first half was the real sign that we were more like ourselves, to be honest, because we had Henderson and Lallana, and Henderson in particular in those first 20 minutes he was a force of nature. He was everywhere. He was cutting off attacks, starting attacks. He was absolutely phenomenal. It really, really was, and it was down to Henderson and Lallana's pressing that Barry didn't know where he was for 20 minutes. He thought he was still on the bench at City. He had no idea what was going on, and he rightly should have been sent off, to be honest. I don't think there's anyone really debating that too much, is it? He should have been gone, and then, like you say, it's 10 men. The dynamics completely different, and although maybe it did suit us a bit better because they kept attacking, and who knows what it would have been if they completely dug in. Maybe it would have been a bit more awkward for us, but yeah, there's no debate from me. Barry should have gone.
Yeah, I think most people think the same, to be honest, mate. And like you touched on there, I was just about to move on to Joe in terms of, individual performances. Adam Lallana and Jordan Henderson were the main two that I think a lot of people say caught the eye. Sterling, as you'd expect Sterling to do up against Tony Hibbert, had a good game, and Balotelli did everything but score, really, I thought. Who are your sort of standout performers, Joe, and who do you think could maybe have done a bit better against Everton?
I think all round, like as you say, individually the team looked better. I thought the two centre backs, Skirtle and Lovren, who started obviously, I thought they've obviously had a rough time this season, but I thought they played well in the derby. And a lot of people were saying, oh well, they didn't have a lot to do, but that just seems like almost grudgingly having to admit they played well. I thought that those two did well. And as obviously you mentioned, Lallana was probably our standout for me going forward. I thought he really did look like a £25 million signing, first half especially. I thought he was unlucky not to score a couple of times when maybe the ball didn't quite bounce her in the right positions, or he was getting up and winning headers in the area. And I thought the one corner that Howard saved, I thought that was really unlucky not to get a goal there. And you don't expect Lallana to be winning headers from corners, that sort of thing. So it was just nice to see him like really enjoying the game and looking like he belonged, which not all our signings have so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think from when Lallana was first targeted, people could sort of see why Rodgers would want him, and he showed that at the weekend in terms of his pressing, his work rate, his link-up play with the other players. He's sort of aggressive going forward, likes to attack defenders, and I think if he hadn't have played so many games recently, he had 120 minutes against Middlesbrough, then he'd have started last night against Basel. But we've got the squad at the moment to sort of change it up a bit, and that's exactly what Rodgers looked to do. Mark, as Joe and Craig have touched on, defence against Everton, how did you rate that? I mean, up until sort of the 93rd minute, there wasn't too much, was there? I mean, there was the Baines chance in the first half where he sort of shrugged off Markovic, and that could easily have led to a goal, but for a good clearance from Lovren. But how did you rate, because as Craig said, a lot of people are putting our sort of issues at the moment down to our defending. How did you rate our defence against Everton?
Well, for 90 minutes, it was nearly the perfect performance. 91 minutes, it was the perfect performance. It was just that one goal. Obviously meant like another goal conceded. When he kept the one clean sheet this season, and I think the back four that he's got at the moment with Manquillo, and you've got Moreno with Lovren and Skirtle, that's his preferred back four this season, and I think this will be the one that obviously continues. It's just all about getting a run of games and about keeping a bit of consistency now. Obviously, he prefers Lovren and Skirtle to Sacco, and we just need them guys now to keep a bit of consistency. The defence on the day, it's looked shaky all season. It could be for a number of things. It could be like it's looking for a leader. Lovren's obviously come in and he's wanted to be that leader, but for whatever reason, it looks like Skirtle just doesn't want to listen to him. But they just need that run of games, and obviously it comes back to the keeper as well. Do they actually trust him? Is the confidence there? But if the ball were to go past the back four, do they trust that he's gonna make a save? And like I say, 91 minutes, it was nearly that perfect performance where you're going to say clean sheet 1-0. But then Jagielka scores an amazing toey, and obviously then you're going to draw where it feels like it did feel like a defeat coming away from that game, obviously because scoring so late and dropping the 2 points. But I think the defence has always been shocking. Brendan Rodgers and last season, you can see that the defence has never been our main aspect. It's just this season, with the attack taking a while to kick in as well, people are even more alluding to the defence and the defensive mistakes that we are making, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd agree, and I think second half we obviously got the goal from Gerrard, and I don't think that we need to concentrate on that too much. I mean, it's trademark Steven Gerrard, isn't it? Not much more you can say. Stepping up when he needs to step up. He let Balotelli take a few, and obviously fantastic free kick. But obviously the goal from Jagielka was a fantastic goal. But actually, some of you may have heard Gary Neville on Monday Night Football saying that maybe Mignolet could have done better, and Craig, what's your? I'm not sure if you saw that, but would you agree with that? I mean, he said that sort of his starting position, Mignolet's sort of a bit sort of low down. He sort of compared him to Neuer, who stands up tall when shots are coming in. Do you think Mignolet could have done any better, or is that extremely harsh?
I've been one of Mignolet's biggest critics, mate, but to criticise him for that goal, ridiculous.
Yeah.
The lad's hit an absolute dream, mate. He couldn't have caught it any better if he tried, and give him 100 attempts at it again, he'd never produce that shot. It's easy to say that his positioning might have been wrong, but is there any way, shape or form that Mignolet should be expecting Jagielka to hit that ball from there? Because I'd say there's 45,000 people in the crowd, they weren't expecting him to hit it. It's caught him off guard, yeah, and Manuel Neuer or not, no goalie saving that for me, no chance.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that as well. I mean, it'd have been a fantastic save, and obviously I don't think there's any keeper in the world that have kept that out, like you just said there. So, obviously it ended 1-1, Harry. How significant, a goal do you think that may have been from Jagielka? Obviously, it's 2 points dropped, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I wasn't too bothered about the points dropped. I mean, obviously you're annoyed to an extent, but for me, the thing that concerned me the most since the season has started, apart from Spurs game, is I'm not seeing the performances. I'm not seeing the style of play that we've all come to love and we enjoyed so much last season. Yes, Suarez is gone, but the style of play isn't all down to Suarez. He led from the front, but we still had the players to recreate that style. We saw that against Spurs. I mean, that's what was really worrying me. So, to draw the game in the end was a bit disappointing. But I did leave it, thinking that the performance had gone so much better, and it was good to see some level of progress, regardless of the result. I mean, like Craig said, Jagielka is never going to hit one like that ever in his life. So I wasn't too bothered by it. The defense, the defense did well for 90 minutes. Maybe the only thing you could criticise is that we did drop with about 10 minutes to go. We dropped a bit deep, and we were inviting pressure on. So, but yeah, you don't expect a centre back to do that. Just on the goalkeeper on the goalkeeper point, I thought that was incredibly just strange of Neville and Carragher to go after Mignolet for that particular that particular point. I mean, Mignolet's got loads of weaknesses, but shot stopping isn't one of them really, and that's a worldie. And if I'm honest, in that derby and the season so far, I mean, they should have spent their time questioning Howard, because for me, Howard makes an absolute meal of Gerrard's free kick. Even though it's a good free kick hit with pace, he absolutely screws that up, and he's had a shocking start to the season, just like some people could say Mignolet has as well. So I thought it was incredibly harsh to focus on him for that. But I wasn't too demoralised by us dropping points. Yeah, it feels like a loss when you first suffer it, but you come away and you think about it, and the performance was encouraging. So yeah, I walked away with the positives.
Yeah. Just sort of to round off the Merseyside derby, something else that came from the game off the pitch was Mamadou Sakho. It emerged before the game that he wasn't named in the 18-man squad, and he supposedly sort of left after he'd heard that, sort of left the stadium, didn't refuse to watch the game with the other players. So I wouldn't mind getting your opinion, all of your opinion on this, guys. I mean, Sakho's a player that sort of he splits opinions. Some people love him and defend him all the time, and some people think he's just not very good at all. And Brendan Rodgers, at the moment, you could say falls into that category. So, Joe, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on Sakho's decision to leave the ground, and should he be punished, and should he have been in the 18-man squad?
Well, for me, it's just a bit of a strange situation, really. Like, I'm a fan of Sakho. I do think he's our best defender, and I'd be playing him ahead of Skirtle, certainly, and probably Lovren too, if that's the choice between whoever's playing. But just the situation in general just didn't seem like normal, because I mean, obviously the fans get told the team an hour beforehand, and then they can draw conclusions to whatever. But you'd imagine the players would have known the day before.
Yeah.
Training and that. So for him to suddenly storm out in surprise at the team selection doesn't ring true. So at first I was a bit sceptical, but then obviously he later tweeted an apology, which, you know, that pretty much confirms that something's gone on. So as I said, I was a fan of his, but you can't have players just storming off through not being selected. And he should have stayed to watch the game, and he's accepted that. I'm not so sure that a punishment was necessary. Maybe he didn't start midweek in the Champions League. Maybe that was to do with it. But if it was, I just hope they get it sorted soon. Doesn't create any like friction between anyone in the squad, and we just get him back playing. Because for me, he's someone who we should be starting when fit.
Yeah. And Mark, I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. To be honest, I think we all know that Rodgers likes to reward players who perform well, and obviously Sacco and Torre both played against Middlesbrough, and you know, others may disagree, but I felt that Torre had a much better game than Sacco, and maybe it's just a simple case of Rodgers rewarding Torre with a very good performance by giving him that substitute, and that substitute spot to Torre over Sacco. And normally, and I don't know, maybe one of you guys may be able to correct me on this, but normally players find out the team the night before a game. But I know from speaking to people that Rodgers on big games, he does like to keep, like a Merseyside derby, he likes to keep the team close to his chest to a couple of hours before kick-off, because they all meet up at the morning. They go for a walk, and obviously I think Rodgers likes to give his team. And so he may have Sacco may have just found out on that day, a couple of hours before the guys arrive, that he's not going to be the team, and hence that's why he has left and apologised. So maybe that could have been that instance. But I think the whole situation has been blown up. It could be just a simple case that Rodgers gave Torre that starting spot on the substitute bench just basically because he performed better in the week with Sacco. I know there's some murmurings over the summer that Rodgers isn't fully sold on Sacco. You know, it's probably why he's gone and brought Lovren and spent 20 million on Lovren, because he's not 100% sold on Sacco. It doesn't matter what, you know, other people out there on Twitter and whatnot, they absolutely adore the guy. Maybe it's just a simple case of Rodgers not trusting him as much, and that's why he's gone out and bought Lovren, and Lovren is his preferred defender to him. What happens from here on in, who knows, if he stays, if he goes. But at the present moment in time, I don't buy this thigh injury at all. I just think he's giving him a couple of weeks off, you know, just to clear his head and just sort of teach him a lesson for walking off. And you know, and I think it's just as simple as that, really.
Yeah, and Craig, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I think I'd agree with both Joe and Mark when they say it's sort of strange that if he did go home because of the team selection. I mean, as they've said, I mean, we've seen that the players train sort of a couple of days before, you know, with the team that's going to play. So, you know, and what are your thoughts on Sacco in general? I mean, is he a player that you'd be starting?
I think there's a lot more to it than just storming out because of team selection. Obviously, something's being said or something's gone on in the dressing room which is making him feel a need to walk out. As regards to my feelings, I've documented it before. I'm not a fan of him at all. To be honest, mate, he wouldn't be in my starting 11. So personally, I was happy he's not in the side. But he seems to have gained this massive cult following, especially on Twitter, where people idolise him, if truth be told, and think he's the best centre half in the world and he can do no wrong. If that was, say, one of the lesser fringe players in the squad who've walked out, they'd be chastised, mate, and want him hanging in front of St George's Hall. Because Sacco, this cult following that he gained, felt sorry for him, and what he'd done was wrong, and he deserves punishing, and I'm glad to see that the club have took a firm stance on it.
I totally agree, mate. I think his performances this season, for me, I mean, I can see, he does have all the qualities to be a very good centre-back. He can pass the ball out well. He does look up, does look for the forward pass. He can be dominant, but on the ball, he's not great. He's at fault this season for quite a lot of mistakes. And we've seen, the communication errors at times. I mean, he clattered into Lovren the other week at West Ham. Crystal Palace last year, similar things happened. He's going for balls that that aren't necessarily his. And don't get me wrong, I'd have liked him to do well at Liverpool. He hasn't developed the way I thought he would. So, Harry, we'll finish with your thoughts on this. Do you think he should have been punished, and would you have him in your team?
Yeah, I mean, first up, yeah, what he's done is quite clearly wrong, and you deserve some level of punishment from it. There's no doubt. I mean, if there is not an injury, as Mark's alluding to, and we didn't take him in the Champions League squad to Basel, I think that's really stupid decision. Because you never know what can happen on a day, and injuries can cause havoc. So if he wasn't injured, we may have needed him. But obviously, what he's done is wrong. It's not what we expect from any player who comes to the club. I'm sure it's gone on plenty in the past, by the way, and we've never heard of it. But it's obviously not acceptable, and it has to be punished. So if this is a couple of weeks off, which he's been given by Rodgers, then yeah, fair enough. I mean, you'll have no complaints there.
Yeah, just a quick point. Are you worried at all by sort of, I saw an article from Andy Hunter in The Guardian today, said the team spirit in the squad isn't great. Coutinho yesterday was involved with quite an argument with Rodgers whilst he was playing, and then he ignored him when he was substituted. And obviously Balotelli, there was things about him not applauding the fans yesterday, and Rodgers having a go at him. Are you concerned by that at all? Do you think that may be an issue?
No, not at all. Really, I think it's all side issues. It's sort of stories that do come out when you're not doing well results wise. I'm pretty sure it's nothing. It's football. It's professional athletes, and they're grown men, and they know they're in a bad run of form at the moment. And it wouldn't surprise me if people are a bit tetchy, but I don't think there's any long-term thing to worry about. Certainly not Balotelli being a bad influence on the rest of them. He looks like he's up for it. He looks like he's improved nearly every game he's played. So I don't think he's brought a bad influence in, or anything like that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bit of a downbeat attitude in the team. It's possible, isn't it? But just to go back to the whole Sacco point. I am a fan of Sacco. I'm not one of these people who thinks he's one of the best centre backs in world football or anything like that. But I think he showed enough in the bits and pieces he played last season to show that he's got all the qualities we would need of a left centre back. I don't really know why we went after Lovren. Obviously, it's manager's choice, but I'm stunned that Skirtle's still at the club. Really. As a starter, anyway, I'm amazed we didn't go after a right centre back, regardless of who we favour for left centre back. I think I would be upset if Sacco did, if this doesn't work out for him, because although I trust Rodgers, to a large degree with how we attack and the fluidity, those sorts of movements and those sorts of tactics, he's yet to win any of us over, I think, defensively. So whether I have confidence in this shout of his, I don't know. If he's happy with this partnership, so be it. But Skirtle's been in the side for a long time now, and the same errors, keep coming up in our defence every season. And there's been one consistent link throughout the entire throughout most of our seasons, haven't there? So I don't know if he's made a mistake or not, but he'll live and die by these decisions, and that's what managers are paid to do. And although I don't agree with it, I'm not one to make these decisions. It's Rodgers' job, and you have to respect it to a degree.
Just a quick one on Sacco. Does anybody know, out of you guys, has he fully learned English? Has he got caught up on that? Does anybody know?
I think he can speak it quite well. I don't think he's fluent, but he does bits of interviews in English and that. And I think he can. His basic English is fine now, but I certainly don't think he's fluent.
Because my only thing, and I haven't got a clue on this, but obviously communication is a massive part of being a centre back, where you can maybe get away with it being a forward, and like Suarez took a long time to get used to grasp of the English language. As centre back, you need, especially like obviously with Lovren and Skirl, you need to be shit hot with your communication. And Rodgers has a very strict English only policy on the pitch. You know, he doesn't allow them to speak in their native tongue. So if it could be, I don't know if this is the case, but with Sacco, if he isn't fluent in English, if he is having problems, maybe that is one of the reasons why Rodgers doesn't trust him as much, because it's obviously a case that I mean, a lot of people who are well known on Twitter and you know, who know people who are close to the club, saying that, you know, he isn't fully sold on Sacco. So maybe this could be one of the reasons. You know, maybe it's one of the reasons why he went out and bought Lovren, because obviously the ability there and the talent is there. But this season he just looked like a bag of nerves. You know, he played against Tottenham, and although he kept a clean sheet, you know, there's plenty of times when Sacco and Lovren just were going for the same balls, or you know, there's errors in that game where Tottenham could have quite easily scored, ironically, if it wasn't for Mignolet in his good shot stopping ability. So maybe that could be a factor, you know, and maybe there's something brewing behind the scenes. But if this Andy Hunter article, it's amazing really how Liverpool are having like a bit of a slump, and straight away certain people in the media are just latching onto it, where last season there was no excuses, you know, especially over the last 5 months of the season. You know, everyone was jumping on the Liverpool bandwagon, but as soon as Liverpool have got a bit of a slump going on, where we're not acquitting as much points as we did last year, it's amazing to see the people in the media, specific people, coming out and, you know, and sticking the knife in. That report obviously is one of the examples.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, to be fair. So yeah, I think we'll round off the derby and all the events from that there, and we'll move on to an even more disappointing game in Basel away last night. Liverpool lost 1-0 away to Basel. And it was sort of back to, Joe, I'll come to you, it was sort of back to how we were before Everton, wasn't it? One or two positives came out of it. Possibly, I thought Markovic was slightly better. But what were your thoughts on the game as a whole, and what do you think went wrong?
Well, at half time I was looking and I thought there was a massive overreaction. Obviously it was 0-0 then, and I actually thought we performed decently, and we hadn't conceded too many, well, if any, clear-cut chances really, and we didn't look like perhaps getting one on the break. Sterling's end product obviously wasn't great last night, but I thought second half it's just the same old thing again with set pieces. We can't seem to deal with them whatsoever, and obviously that's cost us the goal, and we just, from there on, we didn't look like scoring really, unless we were going to get a sort of lucky break. I just thought we had too many players last night that weren't sort of on song as they usually are. Sterling, he looked tired. I don't know if sort of playing the full game against Middlesbrough, obviously then playing the derby, and I just don't know if he needs a rest maybe, because he didn't look his usual self at all. Henderson, again, you know, these are key players for our team, and he just didn't look up for it, or particularly on form on the night. And I just think we had too many players that we were sort of having to carry as a shadow of the usual selves to get the result.
Yeah, and I was going to sort of touch on Sterling. Mark, I'll come to you on this. Ever since that sort of, you know, after the Spurs game, he was really, you know, everyone was talking about him, and I think it was the Switzerland away game for England where I started to see signs of, you know, because usually Sterling can be absolutely like faultless in his game. I know that's quite a big statement, but, you know, he won't give a ball away. But I agree with Joe. There were signs last night that he was really starting to get a bit tired and maybe needed a rest. I mean, even when he was still a big threat, as he always is. But, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
He does. Like last night, absolutely, he stood out as a player who he looked tired. He looked shattered, mentally tired, physically tired. Just in prime example, I think it was like 73 minutes, and Lallana knocks a ball through to him, and he literally one-on-one with the keeper. And if he's mentally sharp and he's switched on, he finishes it no problems. But the ball got stuck under his feet. Ball runs away from him, and keeper saves it. And you could just see last night, the more he was trying to do things, the less they're actually coming off for him, and it's a shame because this season he's been one of our best players, and with Suarez leaving, fans and other people are looking to see which player in a Liverpool team is going to step up, and obviously a lot of pressure is going to be put on Sturridge. You know, this guy, if he plays against West Brom, is sort of just like expected to score a hat trick, you know, because we've missed him so much these last few games that he has been injured, and Sterling's another one. People are looking at Sterling to provide that spark, and you know he played well at the weekend, like you say, coming up against Tony Hibbert. You know, you're going to do well. I mean, he created 6 chances for his teammates, and he had a very solid game. And Tottenham and Southampton, he's looked very lively. Since then, you're right, since the international break, obviously Rodgers has alluded to it because he didn't even play him against Villa. But teams are now highlighting and focusing more on him. And I think he's definitely, the last few games, he's definitely found it more. I'll be very surprised if he starts the game on Saturday, to be honest. I think Rodgers may use this opportunity to give him a rest, especially if Sturridge is available to start. He reverts back to the diamond. He's got Lallana, who slots in nicely there at the tip of the diamond, where you can maybe rest Sterling. But it all depends really on what we see from training tomorrow. If we see Sturridge out there with the full team, whether he may start that game. If it looks like he's going to miss it and he keeps in with his current formation, then we may need Sterling to start and go again on Saturday, and just sort of hope that he can sort of hopefully he's got fully rested between tonight and tomorrow and back in Saturday. But he does look like a player who could do with a bit of a rest. It's a shame that he's going off with the England team, and Hodgson will probably play him for a full 180 minutes over these next sort of friendly games that are coming up. But yeah, in my opinion, he could definitely do with a little bit of maybe a couple of weeks break potentially. Where's he going to get that break? That's the question.
Yeah, this is it. Well, you'd hope that Hodgson sort of uses his common sense. I think the games against San Marino and is it Estonia, the other one? And I mean, but they are qualified, so we have to wait and see. I think with Sterling, we can just hope that the return of sort of Allen and Sturridge and maybe the return to a diamond formation might help him out a bit. But he does need a rest. Whether that will come this weekend, because Sturridge was supposed to be back in training today, but wasn't. Looking at the pictures, so we have to wait and see with that. Craig, I'll come to you. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Basel game? I mean, the goal we conceded. Who do you think was at fault for that?
It's just becoming a comedy of errors, isn't it, mate? In a Liverpool back four, every time we concede the set piece, and pretty ironically, we defended Basil's corners pretty well for the majority of the game because we were giving them corner after corner, and we for the most part it felt like Basel hadn't done the homework, because for especially all the first half they were only putting 3 players in the Liverpool box on from a corner. The first corner that they decided to fill the box with, the goal came from. It just seemed like once there was players in the box to mark, nobody had a clue what they were doing. Skrtel's facing the wrong way when a cross is coming across the 6-yard box, and it's not what you want from your centre half. I mean, it's hit both of the centre halves before Mignolet's made the save, and then it was Strella, I think, who's put it away. Personally, mate, and again, it's going back to a point on Mignolet. I want to see him come and try and command the 6-yard box, because that's where the crosses landed, on the 6-yard line. Come and try and punch, come and try and take a catch. If he doesn't get either of those things, 9 times out of 10 he's going to win a free kick, because the goalkeeper's the most protected player on the football pitch. So I just want to see him once just come and try it. If it doesn't work, then so be it. But at least try and command the 6-yard box, because it is. So at the moment, while no one's taking responsibility for what's happening, all 3 of those players are going to keep making errors, which then leads to errors from other parts of the team defending a corner. I don't see the answer to it at the minute. It's got to be an issue that's not being addressed on the training pitch, maybe, because it's positional errors. Every single time we're conceding from these set pieces, it's down to a positional error.
Yeah, and Craig, what do you think of sort of the decision from Rodgers to take out Moreno yesterday? I mean, he put Enrique in. Do you think it paid off? I mean, I think Enrique was
Not at
quite good
all.
against Middlesbrough, wasn't he? And he probably thought, oh, away from home, he's maybe a bit more solid defensively. But do you think it paid off?
Well, I posed a question on Twitter before when the teams come out that it baffled me, and the majority of the response I was getting was that people felt Rodgers would have thought he would be a lot more solid defensively than what Moreno would be, because Moreno loves to get forward. But it was a crazy decision for me. Moreno's come in with a big fee, and he's been brilliant since he's come in. He seems to have everything that we want in a fullback. He's not the best defensively, but he's certainly better than Enrique. I'd say he's better than Enrique going forward. And bar for a game against Middlesbrough where Enrique, what he did play well, to be fair to him, it was his only start in over a year. So to throw him in a game where, when we look back at the group stage of the Champions League, that could be one of the decisive games. If we'd have took 3 points there, we go 6 points clear of the chasing pack, and you're talking about maybe being a one winner at home away from going through. So it just seemed to be a rotation that wasn't needed for me.
Yeah. I mean, and Harry, overall with the game last night, any positives to take? As I said, I mean, Rodgers alluded to Markovic in his post-match press conference, saying he was slightly better, and I think that's the idea of Markovic, maybe to bed him in the Champions League games. Do you think he was, any other players that stood out last night?
I think Enrique stood out for all the wrong reasons. Like Craig's alluding to. I mean, he played well against Middlesbrough, but that's with all due respect, that's Middlesbrough in the League Cup, and I think it's quite clear now, even from the few games you've played this season, Manquillo and Moreno are quite a bit better than anything we've got at fullback. So unless it was a fitness issue or something along those lines, I don't really understand why we brought Enrique in for a Champions League game. He's positionally all over the place, and he doesn't fill you with any sort of confidence, does he? His physicality's there, but we've all known the brain may not be, especially from all those selfies that we've seen whilst he's not been playing and stuff. He's not exactly the most focused individual. So I was a bit surprised to see him come in. On positives, there weren't too many. I mean, I think Markovic definitely looked better than he has done. He seemed to enjoy those sort of games where he's got a bit more space, a bit more time on the ball. Looked a lot better coming inside, which is what we've seen so far anyway of him. Whenever he drifts centrally, he looks a lot better, looks a lot more confident. But passing's still not up to scratch really, in decision making. He looks a bit nervous. You'd expect that of a 20-year-old, but obviously he needs to get to grips with it quickly. But I'm not too worried about Markovic. We could maybe look at it in the same way Sterling was for some fans anyway last season. Started slowly. That's what people perceived anyway, and then suddenly a couple goals here and there, and the confidence increases, and you never know if Markovic will undergo that sort of transformation as well. I thought Balotelli worked hard. I thought he got absolutely slaughtered before the game by Souness, which is laughable, and he got slaughtered after the game as well. I thought he got made a scapegoat. Obviously, he didn't applaud the fans. That's not a wise move, but I thought he worked very hard to try and hold up the ball where he can. He was incredibly isolated by our midfield, which we'll probably get onto it. But that's where I think all our problems are, or at least that's where they're being emphasized a great deal. I mean, he was really isolated, and like people, like Joe was saying, Coutinho hasn't played well, particularly. Sterling had an off game. He looks tired. And Markovic, settling into a new side. The decision making in the final third wasn't great, but I think people choosing to focus on Balotelli and what he's not doing, which they expect him to do, having just had 3 or 4 seasons with Luis Suarez and 2 with Daniel Sturridge, we need to really rein in our expectations a bit, because he's not a comparable striker to them. He will do lots of good things. I've got plenty of faith in him. Once Sturridge does come back, or we get all our fit midfield back, but yeah, I thought only positives I could really see from last night's game were Markovic improving slightly, Balotelli working hard again, and I thought Manquillo, again, never gets mentioned really because Moreno's more of an eye-catching fullback, but Manquillo, solid as you like, calm, composed, everything that Enrique wasn't, and you've got to be seriously impressed with this guy. Really, Manquillo's
Yeah.
come in and looked very, very mature for his age, and I really hope we can make that permanent because he looks miles better than anything we've got in that position.
Yeah, he's a solid sort of defender, isn't he? Reminds me of sort of an Arbeloa or something like that.
I was just about to say that. He reminds
Yeah,
me.
he's good. And Joe, how significant a result do you think that is? Because some people, are sort of saying it's the Madrid games that are, the crucial ones, or we need to win the games other than, away from the Bernabeu and stuff. So, do you think, how big of a blow do you think that is?
Well, obviously that remains to be seen. If Ludogorets could have maybe held on to that lead against Real Madrid, it would all look different. But I think that was asking a lot. So, I mean, to be honest, I was really hoping for 6 points from Basel, home and away. I just thought we needed to get them. But we'll see when when Real Madrid come to Anfield. We're gonna just have to go out, and we can't think, oh well, maybe a draw is acceptable. Maybe we'll damage limitation, whatever. We need to go and try and win that game. And I think at the end of the group, is it the Basel last game in the group? That could end up being a sort of maybe similar to the Olympiacos game, getting out of the group, needing to win by a certain amount of goals or something. And yeah, to be honest, I do think it's a bit of a blow.
Yeah, especially since Madrid won. And then Mark, I mean, in general, so what do you think is going wrong? Just to round off on the Basel game, is it that just we don't have Sturridge, we don't have Allen, we can't play the preferred system? What would you put this sort of bad form down to at the moment?
Well, that is the $1,000,000 question, eh? I think it's a lot of things combined into one. I think from all the games that we've had this season, the Tottenham game, and I know we keep bringing back to it because we're trying to just grasp onto a bit of positivity, but that is the Rodgers Liverpool. That is the football that we want to see, and I think that's the style of football that we will become accustomed to. Two up top is definitely the way to go for this Liverpool team. It brings out the best not only in Balotelli, but it also brings out the best in someone like Raheem Sterling, because he can get played in that tip of the diamond. I think it just shows that the more that player is involved in a game, the more that good things happen for this team. When he's put out on the wide left or wide right, I think although he does have a good game, I think if you can put that player in the middle, just good things happen. Mario Balotelli showed last night that he needs people around him. He needs someone like Sturridge around him as well. I think last night I did something that I don't normally do, but I watched it on Sky and I'd put it on mute, and you just watch the game and you just get your own thoughts, and you just turn off your phone, just literally watch it and just draw your own conclusions from what you're seeing. And last night it showed that Mario Balotelli is a massive ego. It's just this massive presence, and when you've got someone like Coutinho running off him, or someone like Markovic or Sterling, I think a lot of times last night balls were being played into him where he wasn't happy, and he was just turning around. He was just throwing his arms in the air. He wasn't happy. He was snapping back. Players were snapping back at him. People like Sterling, we're sort of saying this, and I'll put it here, have it here. And I think the reason why things aren't going well could be a simple case of that he is trying to get used to the way that we're playing, and we're trying to get used to the way that he's playing. Now, we've been very unlucky with the Sturridge injury, because if Sturridge was fully fit, Sturridge would be that main guy. And we've gone from scoring 101 goals where Suarez and Sturridge took up nearly 60 of those goals, to where both of them have been taken out of our teams. Suarez obviously because he's left, and Sturridge because he's injured, and we're putting in a new guy up top who's having to get used to how we're playing. And I'm not worried at all. You know, the way that we're going at the moment, we probably won't be fully clicking until the start of November, when we go to I think it's Newcastle, and then we go off to Madrid. That's when this team will be fully clicking, and this international break bizarrely comes at a good time. You know, barring any injuries that may happen on the international break. Touch wood, nothing happens, but we'll be able to get people like Alan back. Sturridge will be able to have, you know, a good 2-week rest. It's very important that over these next 4 games that we do actually pick up maximum points. You know, starting with West Brom, because at the present moment in time, although you can put it down to players not, you know, we've brought a lot of players in, they need to bed in. You know, if we start having more negative results, either losses or draws over these next 4 games, and these next 4 games are very winnable. You know, we've got West Brom, international break, we come back, and then the games that we've got after the international break, you've got QPR, you've got Newcastle in amongst that mix, and you've also got Hull. Those are games that we need to be winning, and if we can get maximum points, then, you know, we're only 1 point behind where we were last season in over the course of 10 games. So there's a lot of overreaction at the moment. I stayed well clear of Twitter last night because I could just feel the negativity was just pouring out without even going on there. But, you know, it's a really big change this year with all the new players that we're bringing in, not only in attack but in defence and in midfield. We've had key injuries to key players like Allen. I mean, losing Allen over the international break is a big one, because that means we have to go and play Lucas in a diamond in a position where you need to have a lot of legs to play that role, and that really hurt us. Even though we were playing a diamond, we had Barini and Balotelli up top, having Lucas in that role really affected us, and they absolutely ploughed for our midfield. And it means that having to play this formation at the moment that doesn't benefit someone like Mario Balotelli, and we're having to play Gerrard and Henderson as a 2, again, it just draws more negative aspects to Gerrard's game, because he needs those 2 runners either side. So, you know, I'm not panicking yet. I'm still very positive. If we can go and get these 12 points out of 12 that we need, and everything's going to be looking rosy come in the 1st of November. So, you know, although there are problems at the moment, we're not playing that style of football that we're accustomed to and that we want to see. I think you really got to judge this current Liverpool team, and the Brendan Rodgers current Liverpool team after these next 4 games, where, you know, well, hopefully we can get maximum points.
Yeah, I think Rodgers has been saying that as well about, you know, judge us after the international break when our players are back, and luckily that seems to be the case, that likes of Alan, Chan, Sturridge will be back after the international break. Just a quick one before we move on to West Brom, Craig. Mark alluded to it there in terms of the system at the moment. We're sort of playing a 4-2-3-1. A lot of last season, Coutinho sort of played a bit deeper as sort of a central midfielder, but he doesn't seem to fancy that at the moment. Do you think the system is holding us back slightly and you know, maybe exposing us defensively?
The system's holding us back totally, mate. It's nullifying the threats that we've got throughout the team. I mean, this might sound a bit harsh but we're holding Henderson back to play deep line, basically to babysit Gerrard, because he hasn't got the legs to do it on his own. We're putting Sterling out left, where I feel he just basically doesn't have an impact on the game, or very little. We've got Balotelli up front, who, although a lot of people who don't go the game, which I'm not having a go about that, by the way, they're not going, but when you're at the game, you see how much harder Balotelli works with the team than what the cameras will show, because obviously it's focused on the areas of the game. But he's not a striker who can play up front on his own. And in the system that we've got at the minute, he's having to do that. And he's not in the box as much as he needs to be, because we're not getting the ball to him as much as we should be. And he's going looking for the game. So when we get to the areas where we're up the pitch, Balotelli's not in the box, with Sterling's out of the game. Henderson, we haven't got Henderson's energy that he brings. We haven't got it up the pitch, pressing high where we need him. So the sooner we get these key players back who can play the diamond formation, then we'll see a completely different Liverpool. Hopefully we'll see the Liverpool from last season, and we'll kick on and results will start to get better. But until then, while we're being forced through injuries to play this system, I think we are in for a bit of a slog, and it's going to be much of the same kind of performance. Although I hope the results pick up.
Yeah, and how do you think, Craig, that we'll set up for West Brom then? Like I say, I'm not sure Sturridge will make it, basically, because he wasn't in training today, and the plan was to get him in training for Thursday. So you'd think one day's training is a bit, it's not enough certainly for him to start.
Excuse me.
We've talked about maybe Sterling coming out of the sides. How would you go about it?
I'm still clinging to the bit of hope that Sturridge was going to make it and we'd be able to go back to the diamond. But even if he does train tomorrow, I can't see a way where Sturridge starts. Maybe a role on the bench. I'd like to see us go back to the diamond, mate, and get someone up front with Balotelli. Whether we go change tack completely and give Sterling a go up there, or whether he shows faith in Bedini again. And I just think we need to get another player up top with Balotelli and get the diamond working in behind him, because for me, it's the only time we've looked dangerous this season is when we've played that system.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, Harry, Rodgers doesn't seem to. He did it last night. He did bring on Lambert to play with Balotelli for the first time. Do you think we're sort of underusing Lambert a bit?
No, not at all, unfortunately. The Lambert signing looks more and more ill-advised every week, to be honest, because with the players we haven't got, with the players who are injured at the moment, Balotelli's up there on his own. He's isolated, like Craig said, like everyone said, and you really need somebody who's going to be buzzing off him with movement. Bruni did a passable job against West Ham, but you really need someone with genuine pace just to be helping Balotelli in around him. And Lambert's movement's not awful, it's not, but it's not going to offer what we need, unfortunately. I think Craig was being very, very careful around it, and rightly so, because people are very touchy about the whole subject. But at the moment with the injuries, I think one of the biggest things that's been disappointing is we've not been given a chance to see what Rodgers will actually do with Steven Gerrard this season. He's played an awful lot of games, and we saw at West Ham, it was his third game in a week, and he was absolutely all over the place. And that's to be expected from a 34-year-old. You can't expect someone to do that, to put in that shift. But it's unfortunate because we do not know whether, if that game comes and Allen and Chan are fit, Gerrard doesn't start that game, or if he does start that game, he might not start the following one. I think at the moment we're accommodating Steven Gerrard in the side because there's nobody else really. I think we may be a midfielder light, actually. I thought it when we came in from the window in summer. I thought we maybe one midfielder light, especially with the injury record of Allen, and we know Lucas can't contribute maybe in the same way. But the midfield's really struggling at the moment, and I think that's where the style's gone. You notice that our transitions are really slow. They're sluggish. The pressing doesn't exist because Henderson's deep doing Gerrard's work, so one of our major presses is gone. You notice that in the Everton game we looked a lot better for a while because we had Lallana in front of Henderson and Gerrard working his guts out. You take that away from us and you get what you had in Basel, and there's not. Coutinho will work hard, but you can't really put in the same shift as those two have demonstrated briefly, at least with Lallana's case, that they can do. And that pressing is absolutely key to our whole philosophy, and how everything that we've done that's been good has come from that intensity. Suarez led from it, and Balotelli's trying. Like Craig said, I think it's good that you mentioned it. You can tell he's working hard. It's not on him. We need to get much better service to Balotelli and much better support in around him. And at the moment, with the injuries we've got and the system we're playing with too, we really can't do it, to be honest. Unless you change the system and perhaps even move Gerrard out and put someone else in who's got a bit more energy. I'm not sure who that would be at the moment, but until that's sorted, until the midfield and the shape is sorted, you won't see us looking anywhere near like we did last season. Lallana will give us a bit more, but I think until that's sorted out, we really won't be able to judge this Liverpool team, or Rodgers for that matter.
Yeah. So Joe, I mean, what would you like to see against West Brom in terms of, what do we need to get back to our usual, free-flowing football? What sort of, is there something that you change team-wise, or?
Well, I'd like to see us go back to a two up top. Be that Diamond, obviously, is the easiest way to get it done. But
Marini or Lambert then?
well, obviously, if Sturridge isn't fit, so if Sturridge is fit, then obviously he comes in. But I'd go with Marini, to be honest. I think he's not obviously impressed so far when he's played, but the only way he's going to get better is with game time, and I just think we should give him a run in the side and see what happens, because at the end of the day, it's not really working at the minute, so we need to change something, so I think we should just do it. And that's what I'd like us to do, and go obviously into the Diamond there, which allows us to rotate as well, Coutinho, Lallana and Sterling, if one of them's having an off game, which at the minute is, and we can't sort of accommodate for 2 or 3 of them on the pitch at the same time if they're not sort of doing the job expected. But I think it's going to be a 4-2-3-1 again, which it's not what I'd go with, but the reason we keep playing this is he obviously thinks he can get it right, and there'd be no other reason for him to continue to play a formation that's not really working or sort of producing any results unless he sees a sort of longer term aim.
Yeah, well, he said today in his press conference that he wanted to the 4-2-3-1 was being used to try and keep it as simple as possible. I mean, he obviously feels that, it like as simple as possible to try and bring back our old sort of free-flowing football. I mean, he obviously feels the 4-2-3-1 is a good way of trying to get that out. Let's just run through then some predictions to finish off. It's a really big game. West Brom at home Saturday, 3 o'clock. First 3 o'clock of the season, actually, for us. Mark, I'll start with you. What do you think the score's going to be?
I'm actually going into this game, so I'd love to see a win, and I predict a win, and I'm shit at predicting scores, so I'm just going to say that there's going to be goals in this one. So I'll say there's probably going to be over 3 goals. Just going quickly to the formation, although I would love it to be a diamond, I can't see how in 2 training sessions Rodgers will set up on a brand new formation for them to go with. So I think they will stick with the 4-2-3-1. The change, I assume, will be Lallana will come in for Sterling, and Moreno will come back in for Enrique, and I think Sterling will start from the bench. That's my sort of prediction. I would love it to be wrong. I would love it to be a diamond with Sturridge up top with Balotelli, and stranger things have happened, but that's my prediction. But I'm going for a Liverpool win regardless.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Markovic, maybe you're right. Maybe Markovic will carry on after his more encouraging performance against Basel. Craig, you next. I mean, what do you think? Prediction time for West Brom?
I think we'll see the return of goals made from the Liverpool side, but I still can't see us keeping a clean sheet. So I'm going to be bold and say 4-1.
Yeah, nice little prediction. And Harry, what about you?
Yeah, I think we'll win. Hopefully, I'm hoping for 20 minutes, 25 minutes off the bench for Daniel. Get Sturridge back in, getting back involved. I think we'll be better than we were against Basel. Lallana comes in. He'll help with the pressing. Moreno comes in. He's got the attitude as well, isn't he, about him? And I don't think we can be technically as bad as we were against Basel, because that was really disappointing, wasn't it? How bad our passing was. So I expect us to bounce back and maybe even scrape a win, but hopefully it's a 2-0, maybe 3-1, is maybe more realistic. And Balotelli gets another goal to add to his tally, so people can finally get off his back a bit.
Yeah, that'd certainly be encouraging. And Joe Watson, what's your prediction for the game this weekend?
Well, I'm going to stick to being optimistic as usual, and I think we'll clear the better side, so 3-0. Just nice and simple, get the job done.
I think I'll go for 1-0. I think Lallana will help out a lot, as Harry said. I think we did missing to an extent last night, and I think he's going to be a key player for us. So yeah, that's that. We've run through a lot during this podcast. I mean, it's, like I say, with Champions League football at the moment, it's busy times, and hopefully the results begin to improve. Thanks a lot for joining me, everyone. This will, weekly podcast, so should be back next week with either Steve or Harry hosting. We'll see you next time.